Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajaka Ashtotarita Srimad Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajaka Ashtotarita Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Samstabhakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Nabadi Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, entitled The Pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Text number 50. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Agrahidasanam bratra. Agrahidasanam bratra. Pranipatya prasaditaha. Pranipatya prasaditaha. Prajasvadharma nirata. Prajasvadharma nirata. Vanashrama gunanvitaha. Vanashrama gunanvitaha. Jugopa pitrivadramo. Jugopa pitrivadramo. Menire pitaram chatam. Menire pitaram chatam. Akrihidasanam bratra. Ani pranipatya prasaditaha. Prajasvadharmam nirata. Vanashrama gunanvitaha. Jugopa pritrivadramo. Menire pitaram chatam. Akrahidasanam ratra. Pranipatya prasaditaha. Prajasvadharma nirata. Vanashrama gunanvitaha. Jugopa pitrivadramo. Menire pitaram chatam. Agrahidasanam bratra. Panipatya prasaditaha. Prajasvadharma nirata. Vanashrama gunanvitaha Jugopa Pitrivadramo Menire Pitaram Chatam Agrahirasanam Ratra Pranipatya Prasaditaha Prajasvadarvam Nirata Vanashrama Gunanvitaha Jugatopa Pritavadramo Manire Pitaram Janam. Ladies, Pranipatya Prasaditaha Swadharma Nirata Varna Shrama Gunanvitaha Jugopa Pitavatramo Akrahid accepted. Asanam, the throne of the state. Bhartra, by his brother Bharat. Pranipatya, after fully surrendering unto him. Prasaditaha, having been pleased. Prajaha, and the citizens. Swadharma Nirataha, fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. Varnashrama, according to the system of Varna and Ashram. Gunanvitaha, all of them being qualified in that process. Jugopa, the Lord protected them. Pitrivat, exactly like a father. Ramaha, Lord Ramchandra. Minire, they considered. Pitaram, exactly like a father. Cha, also. Tam, him, Lord Ramchandra. Translation. Being pleased by the full surrender and submission of Lord Bharat, Lord Ramchandra then accepted the throne of the state. He cared for the citizens exactly like a father, and the citizens, being fully engaged in their occupational duties of varna and ashram accepted him as their father. Purport. People are very fond of the pattern of Ram Raja, and even today, politicians sometimes form a party called Ram Raja, but unfortunately, they have no obedience to Lord Ram. It is sometimes said that people want the kingdom of God without God. Such an aspiration, however, is never to be fulfilled. Good government can exist when the relationship between the citizens and the government is like that exemplified by Lord Ramchandra and his citizens. Lord Ramchandra ruled his kingdom exactly as a father takes care of children, and the citizens, being obliged to the good government of Lord Ramchandra, accepted the Lord as their father. Thus, the relationship between the citizens and the government should be exactly like that between father and son. When the sons in a family are well trained, they are obedient to the father and mother, and when the father is well qualified, he takes good care of the children. As indicated here by the words, Swadharma Nirata Varnashrama Gunan Vitaha. The people were good citizens because they accepted the institution of Varna and Ashram, which arranges society in the Varna divisions of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the Ashram divisions of Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. This is actual human civilization. People must be trained according to different varnashram occupational duties. As confirmed in the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, text 13, Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhaga shataha. The four varnas must be established according to varying qualities of work. The first principle for good government is that it must institute this varnashram system. The purpose of varnashram is to enable people to become God-conscious. Varnashrama acharavata purushena padapumang Vishnu aradyate. The entire varnashram system is intended to enable people to become Vaishnavas. Vishnur asya devataha. When people worship Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Lord, they become Vaishnavas. Thus people should be trained to become Vaishnavas through the system of Varna and Ashram, as they were during the reign of Lord Ramchandra, when everyone was fully trained to follow the Varnashram principles. Simply enforcing laws and ordinances cannot make the citizens obedient and lawful. That is impossible. Throughout the entire world, there are so many states, legislative assemblies, and parliaments, but still the citizens are rogues and thieves. Good citizenship, therefore, cannot be enforced. The citizens must be trained, as there are schools and colleges to train students to become chemical engineers, lawyers, or specialists in many other departments of knowledge. There must be schools and colleges to train students to become Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. This will provide the preliminary condition for good citizenship. Varnashram gunanvitaha. Generally speaking, if the king or president is a Rajarishi, the relationship between the citizens and the chief executive will be clear, and there will be no possibility of disruption in the state, because the number of thieves and rogues will decrease. In Kali Yuga, however, because the Varnashram system is neglected, people are generally thieves and rogues. In the system of democracy, such thieves and rogues naturally collect money from other thieves and rogues, and thus there is chaos in every government, and no one is happy. But here the example of good government is to be found in the reign of Lord Ramchandra. If people follow this example, there will be good government all over the world. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangun Langayate Gadim Yat Kripa Tadaham Bande Shri Karundinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram. So today is the appearance day of Srimati Sita Devi, who is the eternal consort of Lord Ramchandra. The general idea is that Lord Ramchandra appeared and he performed, although he appeared as an ordinary person, he actually was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, similarly, Sita is no ordinary person, but she's the expansion of the energy of Lord Ramchandra. Now those who have a poor fund of knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's very difficult for them to understand the pastimes of the Lord. The prerequisite for appreciating the position of the Lord, the prerequisite for understanding the pastimes of the Lord, is people should become free from sinful acts. As long as people are eating meat, taking intoxication, gambling, having illicit sexual affairs, how will they understand the pastimes of the Lord? Bhagavatam says that this pastimes of the Lord are so appreciable. No one would fail to appreciate the wonderful pastimes of the Lord except those who are the killers of animals and those who are the killers of the self. In other words, the sinful persons, or the persons that are steeped in impersonal concept of the absolute truth. So there are many religions that have some concept of the absolute truth, but they can't fully understand because they're not properly informed. They don't have proper guidance. They sometimes think that God he doesn't need anything, right? He's complete. So why would he need a wife like Sita, right? So because a person in this material world, they don't feel complete. Therefore they get married and they have children because they're lacking something, right? So their conclusion is that because Lord Ramchandra married Sita, he was lacking something, and therefore to complete whatever he was lacking, he got married, and therefore, how can he be God? This is their conclusion. So this is due to not having a proper understanding, not being guided properly. Right? In order to understand the Supreme Lord, one has to take information from the acharyas, from the Lord's devotees, and be free from the contamination of sinful acts. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, when someone's free from sinful acts, then they can understand the Supreme Lord. So, the Sita Devi, she is the eternal consort of the Supreme Lord. And many people, they misunderstand that the relationship between Lord Ramchandra and Sita, something like an ordinary relationship in the material world. That's because they came to set the standard. But we should also know from authorized descriptions of Lord Ramchandra's pastimes that Sita Devi is no ordinary person. Just see how she appeared. Janak Maharaj was getting ready for a wonderful sacrifice. And when they do the sacrifice, they plow the ground and make it level, right, for the sacrifice. Our sacrifice person is right here, Shitalanga Prabhu. So while he was plowing from the ground, Sita Devi came up from the ground, right? And therefore she's known as Bhumija, born from the earth. And he had no daughter, so he accepted this baby girl as his daughter, and he raised her. And she was so qualified, so beautiful, and had so many wonderful qualities. He understood that no ordinary person could be her husband. So he set a test, right? That whoever can lift the bow of Lord Shiva, which he had acquired, which took hundreds of men to lift, and who can string the bow, he can be the husband of Sita. So, Lord Ramachandra, he came to the Videha, the kingdom of Janak Maharaj. Another name for Sita is Videhi. And not only he lifted the bow, not only he strung the bow, but he broke the bow. Shri Ramchandra Bhagavan ki. And immediately Janak Maharaj could understand that this is the fit person to be the husband of his daughter Sita. Again, we have to understand Sita's identity. People misunderstand the Lord, that his pastimes are mythological. It's mythology. It's invented by someone to present a moral, ethical way of living. And certainly the Lord's pastimes do display ethical, moral way of living, but it's not invented by anybody's imagination. These pastimes of the Lord actually took place. And Sita is no ordinary lady, although she sets an example for all ladies to follow. Still, she's actually the energy of the Supreme Lord. When the Lord wants to enjoy in this material world, he is not at all attracted by anything material. Right? He's the source. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyatesha charachanam. He's the source of all the material energy. The material energy is under his purview and under his control. Right? Prabhupada gives the example of the sweet maker, right? The Misti Dukan. So he's making sweets all day long, right? But he's not attracted by eating sweets. Right? In the same way, the Supreme Lord is the master, Ishvara Sarvabhut, of all the living entities and all the material elements, but he's not attracted as the ordinary living entity comes to the material world and becomes bewildered, that I can enjoy in this material world somehow or another. They're struggling. But the Lord is not like that. The Lord's mentality is not like that. He's the master of the material energy. But when he wants to enjoy, how does that? We have that propensity to enjoy in us because that propensity is there in the Supreme Lord. And we're a minute particle of the Supreme Lord. He has enjoyment. We also have the enjoyment propensity. Right? Our enjoyment depends on cooperating with the Lord's enjoyment. Then we can enjoy. If we try to enjoy independently, then what will happen? We'll only suffer. Right? Just like the parts of the body, Prabhupada says. There's the hands, there's the leg, there's the belly. So the business of the hand is to get the food and put it in the mouth and deliver it to the belly. Then all the parts of the body get energy from that food. There's a cooperation. If the hand thinks independently, okay, today I'm not giving the rasgulla to the mouth. Nothing for the belly. I'm just going to keep the rasgulla. Right? So the hand is thinking, I have the rasgulla, but can he benefit from the rasgulla, the hand? Right? He'll become weak. The hand will become weak. The body will become weak. There's a cooperation. In the same way, the Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer. Bhuktaram yogyatapasam. He's the enjoyer. Right? And when we cooperate with the Lord for His enjoyment, then all the living entities are satisfied. This material world means trying to enjoy separately from the Lord. Everyone's working very hard to accumulate money, thinking that when I have so much money, I'll be happy. Right? But we can see people have so much money, but still they're not happy. They have 1 crore, they're thinking how to get 2 crores. Somebody has 1,000 crores, they're thinking how to get 2,000 crores. Huh? No one's ever satisfied. More and more. But their ability to enjoy is limited. They have limited capacity. The big businessman in the Bandra Kurla complex, before he goes to work, he has a cup of chai and 2 pieces of toast. The rickshawala, before he goes to work, he has 1 cup of chai and 2 pieces of toast. Huh? It's not that because he's the businessman in Bandra Kurla complex, he can eat 1 gallon of chai and a whole loaf of bread. No, limited. Right? So it's all a matter of mental concoction, living in this material world that I'm going to enjoy. And whatever the living entity works very hard to accumulate in this material world, what happens to it at the time of death? It's all gone. New chapter. Start over, starting from scratch, all over. You know, they have the saying, back to the drawing board, you know, back. So the Lord, He comes to display His pastimes in this material world in a scheduled way, and He comes with His various energies, like Sita Devi, and displays His wonderful pastimes. This idea that you can be here in the material world and you can enjoy in the material world. This concept that this world came about by chance. Right? This feeds this materialistic idea that there is no God. Life came about by molecules. Right? There was evolution. There was natural selection. So our ancestors were monkeys. Prabhupada said, yes, the scientist ancestors were monkeys, but not my ancestors. So Srila Prabhupada was very intent that this idea that life comes about by chemicals, by a combination of molecules, he wanted this defeated. And he encouraged one of his disciples, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, to do that. Right? Because this is the basis of the materialistic civilization. You know, people can live in the material world. They can progress. They can be happy. Like in Ram Raja, people were happy. Right? They had sufficient of everything. They were going forward because they were following the Varnashram institution. But today, with the materialistic concept, and everybody worshiping the scientists as if they were the supreme. Yes, they've given us some gadgets, right? We have some gadgets from the scientists, right? They made some cell phone. You see everybody on their cell phone? One day I was in the park, sitting there chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama. So I saw these 5 friends, boys, 5 young men, they're coming, they're in the park together, and they're all looking at their cell phone going like this. They're not even talking to each other. Right? So we've gotten some gadgets, and we're preoccupied with the gadgets that the scientists have given us, right? Technology. But we have given so much regard to the scientists, much more than the time-passed gadgets that have given us. They're like, for everybody, they're like the high priest, the scientist. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to break this concept, and Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj was telling Srila Prabhupada about one program that he went to, and there was this very prominent scientist that was describing to the audience how a combination of molecules life came. So he asked a question. He said, my dear sir, if I give you all those molecules that you're mentioning, can you give us life from those molecules, combination of molecules? And the scientist was forced to say in the big meeting, that I cannot say. So when this was described to Srila Prabhupada, he was very happy. And he mentioned it 4 or 5 times in different classes, how the scientist was challenged and he was forced to reply, that I cannot say. So Srila Prabhupada wanted this false concept defeated, right? There was a person called Satyapal Singh who was pushing that this Darwin's theory be removed from the textbooks. Even the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh wanted it, was pushing. Because it's atheistic concept. It encouraged this materialistic civilization that there is no God. Everything came about by chance. Everything came about by chemical evolution. But the materialistic scientists were so together and so organized that thousands of the atheistic scientists came forward and protested. So if you look in the textbook of children, you'll find a full page of how Darwin's theory. It was a theory then, 100 years ago. It's still a theory today, but they teach it as though it was absolute fact. Even though there's so much evidence that it could never be a fact. So this is one of our challenges, is that we need to challenge the scientists. We need to question their assumption, and that's all it is a very wild assumption that life comes about We don't, Prabhupada said, and he gave examples to the devotees that were in the Bhaktivedanta Institute. He gave them point by point how you argue with the scientists. And one of the points that I remember is he said that you don't see that life comes from chemicals. You don't see that. What do we see? We see life comes from life, right? Male and a female come together and then comes a life. So we see with our own eyes. But the influence of the materialistic concept and material scientists is so strong that they bewilder people's common sense intelligence that life comes about by chemicals. So this has to be defeated so that people will understand that there is a creator, that this world was created by the Supreme Lord. And we see that it's working in a systematic way. You know, the summer, then comes, now we're in the summer, then the rainy season will come, then the winter season will come. In a very systematic way, the world is working. So there must be some supreme intelligence that's behind that. So once that is established, by defeating the materialistic conception and scientists, then the next step is to establish proper varnas, occupations, as Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, Shudras, the real establishment of that, and then people can become happy, people can become a little bit satisfied, and then gradually they'll take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. And then they'll really be able to understand the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra and Sita. They won't be confused by so many misinterpretations of the Leela of Lord Ramchandra and Sita Devi. They'll actually understand. It appears as though when Sita was taken away by Ravan, that Lord Ramchandra became bewildered. He was moving everywhere in the forest, crying out for Sita. So they misinterpret that this is some kind of material lamentation. But that's not the fact. The fact is that Lord Ramchandra's expanded energy, Sita, and that relationship is completely on the spiritual platform, and that it's a spiritual ecstasy, vipralamba, the ecstasy of missing the beloved, that the gopis also are experiencing with Krishna. So the materialistic minds, they can never understand that. Only when their consciousness is purified by rendering devotional service will they actually understand the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And not only that, but in this age of Kali, the Lord has given a special facility that simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, not only can one realize what is spiritual and what is material, understand that we're not this body, that we're the eternal spirit soul, but one simply by this chanting of the Maha Mantra can reawaken their lost relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That relationship now is covered over by so many different upadis, right? I'm American, I'm Russian, I'm Indian. So many upadis are there. But the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is so powerful. And the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so magnanimous that just by chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can get rid of all the designations and come to the real understanding that Jivar Swarupai Nitya Krishna Das. I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. We have It's not all one, or nirvishesh shunyavadi. We have a designation, but right now we're in the false designation. I'm this, I'm that, right? But the real designation is that I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. So this Maha Mantra and the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can bring us all the way to that understanding. So it's unfortunate that we're in Kali Yuga, but in one sense it's very fortunate, because in Kali Yuga that facility is there. Kalero desha nahi rajan neke asti mahan gunan kirtananeva Krishna sya paramaja. Highest destination, and that is to understand and enter into the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. So today also, it's the appearance day of Sita Devi, but it's also the disappearance day of Madhu Pandit. So Madhu Pandit was an associate of Gadadhar Pandit from the Panchatattva. Right? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Gadadhar, right? Of the Panchatattva, had an associate named Madhu Pandit. So Madhu Pandit was from Bengal and left Bengal at the instruction of Gadadhar Pandit and came to Vrindavan looking for Krishna. And he established one deity known as Radha Gopinath. So if you go out Radharaman Mandir, you hang a left, you come to, after a short distance, you hang another left, and you walk down about 100 yards. On the left again, you'll see Radha Gopinath Mandir. Very beautiful temple of Radha Gopinath. Of course, if you keep going, you come to Govindaji. So in Vrindavan, there's 7 main temples. 7 main temples, right? First there is Radha Madan Mohan, then there's Radha Damodar, there's Radha Shyam Sundar, there's Radha Gokulananda, there's Radha Raman, there's Gopinathji, and Govindaji. So these are the 7 main temples. And when devotees visit Vrindavan, they try to visit these 7 main temples of Krishna in Vrindavan. So this Gopinath temple, Madhu Pandit was living in Vrindavan very simply, and he was worshipping Gopinath in a small hut, and eventually things manifested into a beautiful temple. So if you have the opportunity, you can visit his samadhi. Madhu Pandit's samadhi is also in that same Gopinath Mandir. And also today is the appearance day of Janamamata, who's none other than the wife of Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda had 2 wives, Vasudha Devi and Janava Devi, and they were the daughters of Surya Das, who was a very effulgent devotee of the Lord. And after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, Jana became the leader of all the Vaishnavas. And there's one pastime where the first Gaur Purnima festival was celebrated, organized by Janamamata, in the Keturi Gram. So there were some, Narottam Das Thakur assisted in that organization of the first Gaur Purnima festival, and there were amazing kirtans, and one deity of Lord Chaitanya was installed, right? And Janamamata personally cooked for the first Bhog offering of that deity of Lord Chaitanya. So in this way, she guided all the Vaishnavas in their devotional service after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. Hare Krishna. So, are there any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for describing how without having a good leadership, which is depicting Lord Ramachandra leadership, how he governed the citizens, and making the citizens giving up the sinful activities, then only we can understand these pastimes of the Lord. So, Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport that how the leader should be, following the way how Lord Ram has done the governance of the state. So, Prabhuji, how it will happen now, or should we take up the leadership role in the governance, or should we guide the leaders of the society? How this what Prabhupada wish will happen?
Well, things have to work on different levels. There's the macro level, there's the micro level, right? So on the micro level, we should exemplify in our own lives how Lord Ramchandra dealt with the citizens, and it's described here as a father, Pitaha. Okay? So what is the father? The father has only the good wishes for his children. Okay? He doesn't wish anything bad for them. He wants them, but the problem is today that fathers think that what's good for the children is sense gratification. Right? So the kids are always whining, give me this, give me that, and then they give in and give it to them, right? But Lord Ramchandra and his fatherly affection for the citizens understood what's genuinely good for the citizens. And that is that they should follow the Varna ashram institution, and that pleases him. When the Lord is pleased, everyone becomes pleased. Right? If you supply water to the root of the tree, all the leaves and branches become satisfied. Right? So on our own level, we should try to understand how to have fatherly affection, to bring people up to the level of chanting Hare Krishna, right? Of course, in the beginning, everyone won't chant Hare Krishna, but we can try to guide them in how to lead their life free from sinful acts, following the example of the devotees. If we're a good example, then we can set a good example to others how to live their lives. And eventually, right now, there's the form of government is democracy, right? So if sufficient people in the world become Krishna conscious, or at least free from sinful acts, then that reflection of that will be they'll pick a leader that is free from sinful acts and someone who is more in the mode of goodness than in the mode of passion or ignorance. Right now, the world is in a very dangerous situation. All the leaders in the world are in the mode of ignorance, right? Attached to sinful activities. And they have very powerful weapons, right? Ravan, he was very powerful. As a devotee of Lord Shiva, he had a lot of Shakti. Right? But of course, he was no match for the Supreme Lord. The Lord Ramchandra easily vanquished him and saved Sita. Right? So in our own humble little way, this International Society for Krishna Consciousness is trying to do that. Is the resources of the world, seeing that the resources of the world are used in the service of the Supreme Lord. So that's a good example that we can set. Right? But we have to be very careful, because opulences will come, right? Just like this temple is very opulent, right? But it's not for me. The opulence is for Krishna's and Krishna's glory. Because if we sit under a tree and chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Prabhupada said, who's going to come? Nobody. Right? But we have to be careful. Opulent temple, we can become carried away, right? My temple, right? We don't want to do that. Just like Prabhupada, he was with his Guru Maharaj at Kartik. At the time he had a small child, and he came to meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Radha Kund. So that time he told him there's a fire in the mutt because they just opened up the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Mutt. Big, beautiful marble temple. But the disciples were fighting over who would get what room. Right? And he said, better that we sell the marble and print books. Now, Srila Prabhupada heard that. So Srila Prabhupada's focus, because of that instruction, was to publish books. Right? And Srila Prabhupada encouraged us, and we are encouraging you to distribute books. Right? And this is our most important activity. But at the same time, we're opening temples for the general public, so they'll come and see Krishna nicely dressed and gradually begin their devotional service of serving Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? We have a spiritual organization that's based on a material, it appears to be material in one sense, like organized religion. Like just now the Pope died, right? That's organized religion. So there's all kinds of politics about now who's going to be the Pope, and eventually they'll come up with somebody who's going to be the Pope. And one bishop is thinking, I worked really hard, I should be the Pope. Another bishop is thinking, no, I worked really hard, I should be the Pope. Right? So there's this. So therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, there's nothing worse than an organized religion. But ISKCON is an organized religion. So how is that? Why? Because unless you have organization, you can't have preaching. If everybody was off independent, right, doing their thing, like the Babajis and Radha Kund, how would things be organized in such a way that we could print 25, 35, 40 lakhs of Bhagavad-gitas and get them distributed? You couldn't do it. But sometimes we get confused. We think that the important thing is the organized religion, but it's just a vehicle. It's just something that's required, and it has its drawbacks that we have to be careful about. We have to be very careful and not get carried away by the so-called organization, the position, the post, that I'm rising through, climbing the corporate ladder. Then we miss the point. It's just something that we need to use to organize the preaching. Because like Lord Ramchandra and his fatherly affection, Srila Prabhupada had great fatherly affection for all living entities. They should come to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada was situated in SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple Mandir, just in front of the Bhajan Kutir of Rupa Goswami. Right? Rupa Goswami appeared to him and said, no, don't sit here, go. They followed their order. But there was no need for him to leave. There was no need for him to make this humongous headache of managing a worldwide organization, so much headache. Right? Prabhupada said, man, relieve me of this headache so I can focus on finishing Srimad Bhagavatam. That was his real mission. And he gave us these wonderful literatures. This is the real thing here. It's expression of Srila Prabhupada's dedication to his Guru Maharaj. And just to facilitate that, he made this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, with the hope that the message of Lord Chaitanya would spread and people everywhere would be benefited. So we have to be careful never to lose the focus. Oh, yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, initially you were mentioning that the pastime of Lord, to understand the pastime of Lord, one should be free from sins and some qualification is required. There is another point, to hear the pastime of Lord, there is no qualification. To perform bhakti, there is no qualification.
Yeah, if you hear the pastime of the Lord from the proper source, then you'll become purified. Gradually you'll understand that I should give up all these sinful activities if you hear from the proper source. Right? So that proper source is Srila Prabhupada, and he's given us his Bhaktivedanta purports from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad-gita. And if we read regularly and hear them and try to apply those in our lives, we'll come to the platform that would become very callous to all types of sense gratification.
It means I wanted to understand that. Means to understand the pastime of Lord, we need to be sinless, free from sins.
Yes, therefore Prabhupada told us, chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulator principles. These are the basis of all sins: meat eating, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex life. So if we follow these, we'll become sinless.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Yes. Microphone.
Hare Krishna. Could you please tell us how to start reading Srimad Bhagavatam? 4 or 5 points with your so much experience.
How we should what?
How to start reading
How to start reading.
Bhagavatam and Prabhupada books.
You pick up the book and you start reading.
Any specific?
No, you start with the first canto. First of all, do you have a set of Srimad Bhagavatams?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
In English or in Hindi?
In English.
Very good. So you're 50% of the way there. You got the books.
Yeah.
Now all you got to do is pick up the book, open up the first canto, and begin reading.
Okay.
And then as you go on reading, the other 50% you'll cover up.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you can ask the devotees.
Yes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
One other point I forgot to mention, but it's late. Should I mention it? Because Sita, she gave a perfect example of the chaste wife. She's one of the chaste ladies, right? Mandodari, Draupadi, and Sita, right? So what was her chastity? Her chastity was her faithfulness to her husband. Even though Hanuman came there, he could have picked up Sita and brought her back to Lord Ram, but she said, no, let my husband come. He will take me. And Lord Ramchandra's after Sita was there, rescued from Ravan, what about it? What, is she still pure, chaste? So let her enter into the fire. She didn't protest. She accepted that. Right? She didn't say, no, if you don't accept me, I'll file for a divorce. She didn't say like that. So, this example she set of, faithfulness to her husband, of course it's tough nowadays because most of the husbands are all schmucks, right? And if you don't know what a schmuck is, you can look it up in your Funkin' Wagner. But still she set the example. And by that chastity, Prabhupada mentioned something that's very, very pertinent. We have to understand this. Is that a lady can obtain supernatural powers simply by becoming faithful to her husband. That's an amazing statement, but I thought it was worth mentioning in today's mood of women's liberation and being equal to men and all that. I'm not trying to start any controversy here, but I thought it was an interesting point. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Sita Devi ki, Shri Ram Chandra ki, Madhu Pandit ki, Janavi Mata ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.